Perhaps one of the most important observations emerging from intelligence assessments is the growing gap between political narratives and classified military evaluations. Public statements often emphasize decisive victories, successful degradation of enemy capabilities, and strategic dominance. However, internal intelligence assessments tend to be far more cautious, highlighting uncertainties, partial outcomes, and unresolved capabilities. In this case, that gap is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. While official messaging has projected confidence in the effectiveness of recent strikes, intelligence reports suggest that Iran's military infrastructure has proven more resilient than expected. This does not necessarily mean that the strikes were ineffective, but rather that their impact may have been limited in achieving long-term strategic objectives. From a broader geopolitical perspective, this situation reflects a recurring pattern in modern conflict reporting. Governments often communicate success in clear and decisive terms, while intelligence communities focus on nuance, probability, and remaining threats. The result is often two very different interpretations of the same events. In Iran's case, the intelligence picture suggests partial degradation rather than complete neutralization. Certain command structures and logistical networks may have been disrupted, but the core operational systems remain active. This includes missile readiness, drone deployment capability, and decentralized command frameworks that allow continued coordination even under pressure. Another key dimension that analysts are closely monitoring is Iran's internal military adaptability. Historically, Iran has demonstrated a strong capacity to adjust its operational strategies in response to external pressure. Rather than relying on fixed infrastructure, it often shifts toward mobile, dispersed, and redundant systems. This makes it significantly harder for conventional military operations to achieve lasting disruption. For example, mobile missile launch platforms allow rapid repositioning, reducing vulnerability to preemptive strikes. Similarly, decentralized drone production facilities mean that even if one site is damaged, others can continue operating. This distributed structure is a core reason why Iran's military system is considered highly resilient by defense analysts. At the same time, there is growing debate among experts about whether this resilience translates into long-term strategic strength or simply prolonged endurance under pressure. Some analysts argue that while Iran can sustain operations, continued strain on infrastructure, economy, and supply chains could gradually reduce its overall military effectiveness over time. Others counter that Iran's adaptive structure allows it to offset such pressure more effectively than traditional military models. This debate remains unresolved, but what is clear is that Iran has not been rendered inactive or strategically irrelevant, as some early assessments suggested. Another major point of analysis is the psychological and informational dimension of modern warfare. In today's conflicts, perception often plays a role almost as important as physical damage. The ability to project strength, resilience, or vulnerability can influence diplomatic negotiations, regional alliances, and even internal political stability. In this context, conflicting narratives about Iran's military status are not just analytical disagreements, they are also part of a broader information environment where messaging itself becomes a strategic tool. Each side has incentives to frame outcomes in ways that support their broader objectives. From a regional security standpoint, the persistence of Iran's military capabilities introduces continued uncertainty. Neighboring countries, particularly in the Gulf region, must now operate under the assumption that Iran retains both defensive and offensive capacity. This affects defense planning, economic stability, and diplomatic positioning across the region. Energy markets are also indirectly influenced by this uncertainty. The Persian Gulf remains one of the most critical global oil transit regions, and any perceived risk to shipping routes can impact global prices. Even without active conflict escalation, the mere possibility of disruption creates volatility in international markets. This is why Iran's continued presence as a partially intact military power carries significance far beyond its borders. It influences global economic stability, not just regional security calculations. Another layer to consider is the evolution of modern warfare itself. Traditional assessments of military success often focus on physical destruction of infrastructure. However, contemporary conflicts increasingly involve hybrid systems, cyber operations, electronic warfare, information campaigns, and asymmetric strategies. In this environment, complete military neutralization becomes extremely difficult to achieve. Even heavily damaged systems can retain operational relevance through adaptation, concealment, or external support networks. Iran appears to be operating within this modern framework, leveraging a combination of conventional and asymmetric capabilities to maintain strategic relevance despite sustained pressure. There is also the question of long-term escalation risk. When neither side achieves a decisive outcome, conflicts can shift into prolonged phases of tension, intermittent strikes, and strategic posturing. This type of environment is often less visible than full-scale war but can be equally destabilizing over time. Analysts warn that such situations can lead to miscalculations, where limited actions are misinterpreted as broader escalatory moves. This increases the risk of unintended confrontation, especially in regions with multiple military actors and overlapping alliances. From a strategic forecasting perspective, the most important takeaway from current intelligence assessments is not that Iran is either strong or weak, but that it remains operationally capable despite sustained pressure. That distinction matters significantly in how future policy decisions are made. It suggests that any assumptions of rapid strategic collapse may need to be reconsidered. Instead, the situation appears to be evolving into a long-term balance of pressure and resilience, rather than a decisive victory for any single actor. In conclusion, while Iran has clearly experienced sustained military pressure and measurable disruption, current intelligence assessments consistently indicate that its core defense capabilities remain functional. Missile systems, drone operations, naval presence, and air defense structures all continue to operate at varying levels of effectiveness. This leads to a broader and more complex conclusion: Iran has not been neutralized, nor has it emerged unscathed. Instead, it occupies a middle ground, damaged but still capable, pressured but still operational, weakened in some areas but resilient in others. And perhaps most importantly, this situation highlights a fundamental reality of modern conflict: military outcomes are rarely absolute. They are often layered, partial, and open to interpretation depending on perspective. As intelligence assessments continue to evolve, one central question remains unanswered. Not whether Iran has been affected, but whether the current level of impact is enough to alter its long-term strategic direction. At this stage, available evidence suggests that Iran remains a functioning and adaptive military power, still capable of influencing regional dynamics in meaningful and unpredictable ways. And that reality is likely to shape geopolitical calculations in the months and possibly years ahead. Perhaps one of the most important observations emerging from intelligence assessments is the growing gap between political narratives and classified military evaluations. Public statements often emphasize decisive victories, successful degradation of enemy capabilities, and strategic dominance. However, internal intelligence assessments tend to be far more cautious, highlighting uncertainties, partial outcomes, and unresolved capabilities. In this case, that gap is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. While official messaging has projected confidence in the effectiveness of recent strikes, intelligence reports suggest that Iran's military infrastructure has proven more resilient than expected. This does not necessarily mean that the strikes were ineffective, but rather that their impact may have been limited in achieving long-term strategic objectives. From a broader geopolitical perspective, this situation reflects a recurring pattern in modern conflict reporting. Governments often communicate success in clear and decisive terms, while intelligence communities focus on nuance, probability, and remaining threats. The result is often two very different interpretations of the same events. In Iran's case, the intelligence picture suggests partial degradation rather than complete neutralization. Certain command structures and logistical networks may have been disrupted, but the core operational systems remain active. This includes missile readiness, drone deployment capability,